Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start.
I've been preparing for this all my life.
Here's Porter on hard and taking him to school. What a great play by Jae'Sean. K.J. Martin climbed Bobon Mountain.
T-minus 15 seconds. Guidance is internal.
And you've seen tonight that we fought together, we stayed together, and it's about damn time, man.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hamstring injuries in the Houston Rockets. Name a more iconic duo. What's up, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rockets, the best and only daily podcast covering your Houston Rockets. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and partner at Apollo Media. Be sure to follow along on Twitter at JT Gatlin, the show, of course, at Locked On Rockets, as well as at Apollo HOU. And if you enjoy what we do here at Locked On Rockets, do me a huge favor, hit subscribe at our brand new YouTube channel, hit subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, be it Apple, Spotify, Google, the brand new Odyssey app. We would sincerely appreciate it. Houston Rockets budding star Jalen Green having his summer league cut short due to hamstring tightness that he felt near the tail end of the second quarter against the Toronto Raptors. Now, I will say that this is not a hamstring injury. It's just tightness. It's precautionary more than anything. We heard from head coach Stephen Silas at halftime, basically saying that they were just being, overly cautious with Jalen Green. They didn't want to, overexert him at all. It was more so just a cautionary thing where they just pulled him out. They don't want to take any chances, right? It's summer league. It's not important in the grand scheme of things. Yes, it's a little deflating and somewhat disappointing that he won't play or likely won't play the rest of summer league. That is definitely unfortunate. But we already got a really solid sample size out of Jalen Green. We got a glimpse at him in a Rockets jersey across these first 2.5 or so games. It really is a bit of a travesty that he didn't get to keep playing in this game because it really felt like he was on the way to a 30-plus point performance as he was pulled with 13 points, but was shooting, really well from the floor. 4 of 8 shooting, 3 of 5 from behind the arc, already, 2 of 2 free throws, 13 points. And again, the moment where he kind of, you saw him kind of tweak that hamstring a little bit where he started to move a little gingerly on the court. It was near the tail end of that second quarter, and he kind of had this, dribble crossover move out of the pick and roll set and pulled up for a mid-range jumper. And then on the way back down to the defensive end of the court, he looked not 100%. Like he looked like he was moving a little bit gingerly. And then he tried to take an intentional foul to, create a dead ball so that he could check out. And the refs just totally missed it. So he wound up having to kind of hobble up and down, back and forth on the floor for the next possession or two as Alperen Sengun was kind of carrying the ball back in transition, tried to make something happen, turned it over. But I wouldn't stress too much about this situation with Jalen Green. It's not like he has a history of hamstring injuries or injuries at all, really. And my main takeaway from this is that, again, the Rockets are just being, overly cautious. They spoke, post-game, Will Weaver saying that he didn't have an update on Jalen Green's situation, but again, they just didn't want to risk anything. Jalen, feeling a little bit of tightness. Josh Christopher did say that Jalen mentioned, the tightness to him, I guess, that he wasn't, 100% coming into the game, which maybe there's a little bit of cause for concern there that, the Rockets training staff and Jalen Green might not have been on the same page about where he was at physically going to this game, but honestly, if it's just a little bit of tightness, it's nothing to be worried about. It's just routine. It's precautionary. They pulled him out. And honestly, he had a really stellar summer league debut across the 2.5 games that he did get to play. Obviously, the Rockets going 2-0 in the games that Jalen Green actually played to completion. But across these 2.5 games, Jalen Green's stats just completely jump off the page at you. He finished his Vegas 2.5 quarters, 2.5 games of basketball play, 61 points, 19 of 37 shooting overall, 10 of 19 from behind the 3-point arc, which is ridiculous, over 50% shooting from behind the arc, 13 of 14 at the charity stripe, all in just 72 minutes of action. So I do think that Jalen Green, we got to see exactly what he's going to be able to do as a player. We got a glimpse into the Rockets' future and what it's going to look like when he's actually playing come the NBA regular season. He is a lethal scorer who can score both, on ball, who can score with the ball in his hands or operate off ball. We got two kind of glimpses of that, both the Cavaliers game where he operated a bit more with the ball in his hands, and then the Pistons game where he was forced to operate without the ball in his hands due to the blitzing, the double teaming that the Pistons defensive scheme was throwing at him. And then in this one against the Raptors, a couple of his three-point attempts coming off catch and shoot opportunities, really, again, a versatile scorer offensively, somebody who can get it done in a variety of ways, and something that I hadn't been able to fully appreciate until seeing Jalen Green play in person, even though it was cut a little bit short, was truly how explosive he is. And if he was dealing with a little bit of tightness in that hamstring before actually checking out of the game and wasn't playing at, exactly 100%, that's even scarier, because I commented at one point during the game where he just turned on the jets at one point, and his burst, his 0 to 60 speed is unbelievable. And I've commented time and time again about how lightning quick his first step is, but that's what makes him so lethal, both as a driver, somebody who's going to try and attack the rim, somebody who's trying to create shots for himself and for his teammates. And it also allows him, you think of a first step, right, as the ability to, beat your man off the dribble and get, conceivably all the way to the rim, but it's also what leads him to be able to create so much separation when he goes for his patented step back, is he's got that lightning quick first step that gets his defender off balance because they're trying to recover and get back into a good defensive stance while they're checking him. And so then he uses his quick second and third steps to get back into that step back position and create that, monumental amount of space to be able to get his jump shot off. And even when he doesn't have space, we've seen him drain jumpers through these, 2.5 summer league games with a hand right in his face with very little breathing room from defenders. So all in all, even though it was cut short, I think Jalen Green had a really, really strong summer league. And I think we can come away very content with his performance. And again, it didn't even feel like across the first two games, I never really walked away thinking he had a stellar game. Like, he was impressive in his debut. He recovered early against the Pistons, after the 3 early turnovers, and then the adjustment to get him operating off ball, had the 25 points against the Pistons and Cade Cunningham. That was a solid performance, but at no point did it feel like he had an oh my God performance. And it kind of felt like he was on the way to one of those here against the Raptors before being shut down early, unfortunately, because he had the 13 points and he had the 3 triples, and it really felt like he was the only guy for the Houston Rockets that had it going. At one point, the Rockets were 2 of 14 shooting from behind the arc, and Jalen was the only guy with any makes, unfortunately. So the rest of the team really struggling to shoot the ball in this one. But overall, I come away very impressed and very confident in Jalen Green's summer league debut, what he was able to accomplish across 2.5 games. And he caught up with Jonathan Fagan, the Houston Chronicle, a little bit after the Rockets Raptors game concluded, and basically, told Jonathan that, he doesn't feel like he has to prove anything to anybody, that he, his goal is to compete and to prove himself at the NBA level. And, he feels like he came out and did a good job in summer league, and now he's just, focused on getting his body right for the NBA season, which is just 67 days away. It's also worth noting that when I saw Jalen Green leaving the stadium, he was walking a little gingerly, not like with a limp or anything. So again, it's nothing severe, but take it for what you will. I don't think it's anything severe. I think it's just going to be something that they're monitoring. Rockets did report that they're going to be running an MRI to make sure that there's no severe damage in there. And then the one last thing of note, which I found was kind of interesting, there were some pictures kind of making the rounds on social media. It looked like there was kind of some kind of like athletic tape on the back of Jalen's right hamstring. And then others were commenting that both Scotty Barnes and Cade Cunningham had the same kind of athletic tape on the exact same leg as well on the back of their right hamstring, which leads me to believe, because at first people were speculating that maybe they knew about the hamstring tightness going into the game, and that's why that tape was there. But the fact that both Cade Cunningham and Scotty Barnes also had the exact same tape on the back of their legs kind of points more so towards, maybe it's something, analytics based, maybe it's something, that Summer League is running, maybe it's a league incentive or, something along those lines where, they're testing something out, a new product or whatever it may be, right? To figure something out with these athletes. Again, maybe it's analytics, maybe it's just some performance measuring, enhancement tape or something. I don't know, right? But the fact that it wasn't just on Jalen Green, it was also on those other two guys, doesn't lead me to believe that they knew about the injury going in. It was probably just routine tightness, right? Makes a move, overexerts himself a little bit on a play, and then suddenly, sometimes you just tighten up if you're an athlete. And it's better to play it safe than sorry, especially in Summer League games, which by and large, yes, it's disappointing. Jalen Green's not going to play the rest of Summer League, or likely not going to play the rest of Summer League, but we'd rather be safe than sorry rather than him aggravate and worsen a potential hamstring, injury in Summer League. Because again, at the end of the day, Summer League doesn't really matter. But past all of that, we did have some exciting stuff going on. Usman Garuba makes his Summer League debut. Want to talk about that. Want to talk a little bit about Alperen Sengun, KJ Martin, Josh Christopher, all those other guys. And we're going to get there in just a moment after a quick message from our friends over at Sweatblock. Because look, we've all been there, right? You got an important meeting. Maybe it's a job interview. Maybe it's, you're just going out to hang out with some friends, or maybe it's a first date or something like that. You're trying to impress somebody, right? You're trying to get a good first impression with a group of people, and you're worried about, going out and, what you're going to wear, if you're going to be too hot, too toasty. Look, I live in Houston, right? Bayou City. Humidity cranked up to 11 at all times. So I know what it's like to go out in public, and within 5 minutes of being outside, you're already sweating through your shirt, sweating through your jacket, sweating through your outfit. It's uncomfortable. It's awkward. It's a little bit embarrassing at times, right? Sweatblock can help you with that, because Sweatblock is a stronger and more effective clinical antiperspirant that you just apply it, right? It's comes in a form of a little wet wipe. You just put it on the night before you're getting ready to go out, and it'll last you about 7 days, sometimes up to even 2 weeks. It kind of varies person to person. But when you put it on, it blocks all of that for about a week to 2 weeks at a time. No more having to worry about what you're going to wear, choosing your outfit based on, oh my God, am I going to sweat through this shirt or not? Like, none of that, right? You can get rid of all that anxiety, all that worry, and it's a super easy product to use, and you can check it out. If you or someone that you know struggles with this, check it out. You can get 20% off at sweatblock.com when you use promo code LOCKEDON, or at Amazon and CVS. So again, that's 20% off at sweatblock.com when you use promo code LOCKEDON. And another message from our friends over at betonline.ag, because BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all of your sports action. You got baseball season going strong, in full swing. BetOnline also covers you for UFC, MMA, you name it. We got football right around the corner. They're going to have you covered for that. Get all the latest news, odds, and info for all your sporting needs. So before the next pitch, before the next play, before the next anything, right? Don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Head over to betonline.ag and use our promo code LOCKEDON to receive a 50% welcome bonus on your very first deposit. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for a 50% welcome bonus on your very first deposit. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. I want to talk a little bit about Sengun and KJ Martin in this segment, and then I'll go Josh Christopher and Usman Garuba in the final segment. And I do have to say, as I'm recording this, so I'm in Vegas right now in my wonderful, nice Airbnb. That's why my usual backdrop is not behind me. I do not have my Hakeem Olajuwon Etonics or my usual little rocket shrine back there. I will say that when I first sat down to record this podcast, I got about 15 minutes into it and then forgot to plug my laptop in. So the laptop died on me, which was great. So 15 minutes of the greatest podcast nobody will ever hear. Anyways, let's get into Alperen Sengun, who continues to impress with his play, with his versatility, with everything that he's able to do offensively and even defensively. Like, he has just been, I feel like there's maybe an argument to be made that his play has been more impressive at times than Jalen Green. And I know that's a stretch, right? But it's only because it's more so surprising, right? We knew Jalen Green coming in, number 2 overall pick, arguably could have been the number 1 overall pick, right? There's a reasonable level of expectation for what you had as your like floor in your mind for how Jalen Green was going to play and what we were going to see once he actually suited up for the Rockets. For Alperen Sengun, I mean, for everything that we, heard about him, the scouting, everything that we did, talking about him leading up to his eventual debut for the Rockets, we understood that he was going to be, a talented offensive player, kind of that old school style big, polished post game, all of that. But he's shown quite a bit more than that in Summer League so far. And in this game against the Raptors, he had kind of a quieter game, 9 points, just 3 of 10 shooting, did have the 10 boards, had 3 assists, 2 steals, and a block, 5 turnovers, because at points, especially after Jalen Green went out, and really just, in the entirety of across all 3 of these Summer League games for the Rockets, it's just unfortunate that they don't have a true primary ball handler out there. Josh Christopher has done well enough in a pinch as kind of like a pseudo point guard for them. But with no Kyrie Thomas in this game, unfortunately, and then Josh Christopher really having to shoulder an immense load as far as the ball handling duties with no Jalen Green, and then as well as Armani Brooks still not being, with the Summer League team, unfortunately, it's just a lot to expect one player, especially a rookie, to handle. And so there have also been times where, Sengun has been, trying to do a little bit too much, be it in transition or, just, maybe makes his move a little bit too late offensively, and the defense starts to crowd him, and it leads to, some turnovers here and there. But that's to be expected, right? That's what Summer League is for. It's just to get a glimpse at what these rookies are going to be capable of, to try and get an understanding of their game and the areas that they need to improve in. And with Sengun, I come away still thinking that everything he's willing to do on the court, he does it with a level of confidence. In this game against the Raptors, he ran the break multiple times, and he actually dished out a couple of assists, if I'm not mistaken, on the break in transition, because he's not afraid to get the rebound. And if he sees that the Rockets have an advantage, there were multiple times where he just secured the rebound, looked up, realized, open court. Okay, we're running, let's go. And he runs the transition. He's not running it perfectly. He definitely looks like a big running in transition, trying to facilitate, but this was something that we saw some highlights of as well from his play in Turkey. Is, he's not afraid to put the ball on the floor. He's got a little bit of a sneaky good handle about him, right? We've seen some kind of flashy, behind the back dribbles. He's got the spin moves when he's driving from the top of the key towards the basket. He's not afraid to put a little flourish on things and really go out there and kind of try and style on some guys. So I've been impressed with him and what he's done. I do think that the Rockets should have done a better job, especially once Jalen Green was officially ruled out for the rest of the game. I definitely wish they had done a better job of trying to get the ball inside and running the offense through Sengun quite a bit more than they did. It definitely feels like there's not, again, and this is another issue of not having a true point guard out there, somebody who can recognize where to get the ball to certain players, what their sweet spots are, that kind of thing, rather than just the constant, very base level offense of just running a lot of heavy pick and roll. And then, if it's not heavy pick and roll, if they don't get something out of that, then they're just kind of hoping that the ball ends up in somebody's hands and they're able to, create something for themselves, with a little bit of time left on the shot clock. Basically, ending things in an isolation possession, more or less. But Sengun should have gotten more touches, I think, in the paint. And that's an area that I'm going to be looking forward to over these next 2 games that the Rockets have, because they've got one more for sure, or they've got one more that is already scheduled, and that is against the Orlando Magic on Sunday. And then they'll have one more game on either the 16th or 17th to round out their summer league schedule. And those games are unfortunately yet to be announced. But as soon as we find out about them, of course, we'll keep you posted on what time and dates and all that stuff here at the show. But with Sengun and with Jalen Green likely out for the rest of the Summer League, I hope to see, and hopefully Will Weaver kind of makes this adjustment and makes this, a point of emphasis moving forward, is allowing him the opportunity to kind of run the offense through Sengun, get him some post-up touches, let some guys run some actions with him down low. That way he can, A, either try to create for himself, create his own opportunities at the rim, or B, utilize his passing, right? And I definitely think that's an area that we've seen a little bit of, where Sengun starts a post up and is able to then kick it out for a wide open 3-pointer, or, finds, a cutter who makes a good cut towards the rim. And he's created some easy opportunities that way. But it definitely didn't feel like we saw enough of that, especially after Jalen Green went down against the Toronto Raptors. Now, the other guy that I want to talk about a little bit here in this segment is KJ Martin. who has had a really, again, quietly good summer league. In this one, finished with 9 points, 4 of 7 shooting. This was probably the quietest game that he's had across the first 3. But overall, he continues to look like he's working on and developing those areas of the game that we talked about, as early as, before last season even ended, when Ali Kambijani and I were doing kind of, some breakdowns on what we've liked and what we've seen out of KJ Martin. The whole idea for KJ is he started last year as a 4, as a bit of an undersized power forward. Obviously, he's got the incredible leaping ability, and that allows him to, really contest shots and stuff defensively, but he's a bit of an undersized 4. And then as the season went on, we saw him transition a bit more, and we saw some lineups where KJ Martin was running effectively as the small forward of the lineup. Now that, it needed some work because unfortunately KJ Martin's handle and his shooting were kind of two question marks as to, okay, can you really play him at the 3? Is his shooting going to be consistent enough? And is his handle consistent enough to where he can attack off closeouts, where he can create for himself or his teammates as defenses are rotating? And I think that's something that we've seen a little bit of, right? Where KJ is a little bit more effective now at being able to be out on the 3-point line as a catch and shoot, threat from behind the arc. And then on top of that, his ability to read and react to defenses appropriately, be it, okay, what am I gonna do as the defender's closing out on me, right? Am I going to still try and pull up for 3? Do I have an opportunity to kick this ball to the next man, make the next pass, make the next read? Or am I gonna drive it in and try and yam it on somebody, which he seemingly tries to do at least once per game, right? He tries to get a poster at least once a game. And there have been plenty of times where plenty of players have made business decisions to not be on the receiving end of a KJ Martin poster. Shout out Evan Mobley, who made a very good call in the first Summer League game to not be in the way of Air KJ when he went up for that vicious slam. So with KJ Martin, again, those are the two areas that, and with the shooting has gotten better. He went on that absolute tear to end last season with his 3-point shot. The form looks good. He's got a good release, all of that. So I'm not so much worried about that. It's more so just him getting to another level where he's a little bit more comfortable with that handle, to where he can effectively attack in transition, because I think that's an area that I want to see a little bit more out of KJ Martin, is the ability to attack successfully in transition, but also to be able to put the ball on the floor in transition, right? Not just be on the receiving end of passes and lobs in transition, which is still largely effective, but it means that somebody else is having to facilitate that for him, as opposed to him just being able to grab the rebound and run in transition, right? I'd like to see him be more comfortable about just taking the ball and then putting it on the floor and taking off in transition, because we know he's got the speed, he's got the burst, he's got the jumping ability to be a terror in transition. He just needs the confidence to be able to put the ball on the floor, rather than securing the rebound and then immediately looking for an outlet to a guard who can then run the break instead, right? We need to get him a little bit of that erratic Sengun confidence in transition. That's what I want to see for KJ. But overall, I've been impressed with his summer league. I've enjoyed, what we've seen out of him. I do want to talk about Josh Christopher and Usman Garuba coming up, because it's not all sunshine and roses with those two guys. I'm still enjoying what I've seen out of Josh Christopher, but there were some stretches in this game that did not inspire a lot of confidence. And then Usman Garuba, we'll talk about his debut. Not a stellar debut, but understandably so. And we'll get there in just a moment after a quick message from our friends over at Built Bar. Because look, if you've never had a protein bar that you've actually cared about, you got to check out Built Bar. These bars, the special thing about these guys, right? They're basically candy bars that are jam-packed with protein. They got so many amazing flavors to choose from. You got raspberry, mint chocolate brownie, double chocolate, salted caramel, my personal favorite, coconut brownie chunk. Cannot go wrong with a single flavor on their menu. Every single bar, low cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber. Great if you're on a keto diet. Great if you're trying to lose weight. Great if you're just running behind in the morning, right? You just need to grab a couple Built Bars running out the door. I do that all the time. I keep a box of them right on my kitchen counter, and I try to keep re-upped on the coconut brownie chunk, because I can go through those like nothing, man. I can power through like 2 or 3 of those in one sitting. They're so good. Be sure to check it out. You can go check them out and get a pack for yourself over at BuiltBar.com. And be sure to use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your very first order. Again, that's promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Now, I want to start with Josh Christopher in this one, because I don't think it's fair for me to be overly critical of Josh Christopher in a game where he was largely the only primary ball handler for the Rockets after Jalen Green went down. With no Kyrie Thomas in this one, Josh Christopher and Jalen Green kind of sharing, playmaking duties, sharing primary ball handler duties for the first half of this one. But then, Jalen Green goes down and it basically becomes the Josh Christopher show. And in the Josh Christopher show, he did have 14 points, but it took him 18 shots to get there. And he only had 4 makes. So 4 of 18 from the floor, 1 of 9 from behind the three-point line, 5 of 6 at the free throw line, did have 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and 2 turnovers. So with Josh Christopher, there was a stretch where, and this was before Jalen Green left the game. It was when Jalen Green sat down, tail end of the first quarter, and it became, Josh Christopher's turn to basically run the offense with no Jalen Green on the floor. And there was a series of possessions. I want to say it was 3 or 4 possessions in a row that all ended with either a Josh Christopher missed shot attempt or a Josh Christopher turnover. And it was like 2 or 3 possessions in a row with a Josh Christopher miss. And then the very final one to, the culmination of it all was a Josh Christopher turnover. Now, it's those stretches, right, where he's continually looking for his own shot that are the question mark, right? Is if he is charged with being the point guard, the playmaker on the floor, you'd like to see him focus on getting others involved a little bit more. Again, I don't want to be too hypercritical of him. It's Summer League. The whole purpose of Summer League is for guys to go out there and get some reps in and, showcase their ability and what they can do. But I think with Josh Christopher, the biggest question mark with him is going to be, can he fill into a role where he's not thinking that he is the primary guy on the floor, right? Where he is going to go out there and focus on, again, playing top level defense, maybe creating for others off of, closeout opportunities, that kind of thing. But he's realistically at the NBA level not going to have the ball in his hands, right? There's going to be so many other guys who have the ball in their hands before Josh Christopher ever sees the ball in his hands with any level of consistency, right? Just think about it. You got John Wall, Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Eric Gordon. Who passed that? Who am I thinking? I mean, even more so, right? Offense is going to run through guys like Christian Wood more so than it will before, they run things through Josh Christopher. So in this one, they didn't have anybody else to run the offense through. And because of that, he had, the heightened volume of shots, and he had the series of possessions where there wasn't really anybody, I guess, to create for, or he just wasn't actively looking to create for others, unfortunately. So that's just an area of his game that I'm going to be interested to see how it develops, because if he checks into his first NBA game and immediately starts, chucking shots, that's going to be a problem. But if he checks into his first NBA game and he is playing more so off ball, maybe playing a bit more of a wing role instead of a guard role, and does what he does well, which is, again, play top level defense, rebound the ball well, create out of catch and shoot opportunities. And the biggest question mark for him is going to be his shooting, right? Can he get his 3-point shot to a place where it's respectable at the NBA level? That's going to be the number one area that I want to see him work on. There's a little bit of concern that I have about his shooting form. The shot form is a little sketchy, but it's worked well for him so far. And so hopefully they don't try to, absolutely revamp his shot form. They just need to get him to a point where he's a little bit more comfortable with the NBA 3-ball. And then from that point, I think we can talk a little bit more about Josh Christopher, the wing, and not Josh Christopher, the guard. Because again, there's so many other guards on this roster that are going to get minutes ahead of him. And I do still believe that he is a large contender for him, and Usman Garuba as well are the 2 primary contenders for probably getting some burn at the G League level, because there's just not enough minutes at the NBA level for either of those 2 guys with everybody else the Rockets have on this roster currently constructed. Now, that said, I want to get to Usman Garuba, and I saved Garuba for last because I will admit it was a bit of an underwhelming debut for Usman Garuba, but understandably so. He basically jumped off a jet and came straight to Summer League. Didn't have a chance to practice, hadn't had a chance to really talk to or meet his teammates or his coaches. He basically just jumped off a jet, came on, threw on a jersey, and got thrown out there on the floor for 12 minutes. So in his 12 minutes, Usman Garuba did not score the basketball. Was 0-4 from the floor, 0-2 from the 3-point line, did have 6 rebounds, no offensive boards, unfortunately, and had 1 steal. Defensively, looked okay, moved his feet well, contested some shots. We didn't see any of those, insane highlight level plays that we'd kind of become accustomed to seeing with him playing on Real Madrid. And again, I credit that a lot to, the dude literally jumped off a jet and came straight to the game. It was a little jet lagged, not expecting a whole lot out of him, with zero practice time, zero, again, not acclimated to the system whatsoever, right? Again, they're basically out there playing a very base level offense, a lot of heavy pick and roll. And then past that, it's just kind of creating, opportunities in transition, that kind of thing, playing with a lot of speed. And I don't think that we can count this as Usman Garuba's true debut. I'm really more interested to see what he does in the game against the Orlando Magic and how he looks in that one. Again, the 12 minutes that he played, very minimal. I think he's a guy that clearly could be starting on this Summer League team. And it honestly wouldn't shock me to see Usman Garuba start against the Orlando Magic and the Rockets trot out a starting lineup supposedly, of, I would say maybe Josh Christopher, Anthony Lamb, KJ Martin Jr., Usman Garuba, and Alperen Sengun against the Magic. That starting lineup wouldn't shock me, given the injuries and the unavailability, I should say, of the other players. Now Jalen Green likely shut down for the rest of Summer League. No Kyrie Thomas, no Armani Brooks. So getting to see Usman Garuba play, some more substantial minutes and getting to see him without being jet lagged is going to be a lot more fun than a Garuba who just gets thrown in for a quick 12 minutes. And again, in a game where they're already getting blown out, there wasn't a reasonable expectation for the Rockets to really, I don't want to say that there wasn't a reasonable expectation for them to win this game. I feel like it was still kind of within reach at times. But the Raptors had a solid game themselves. You got to give credit to them. Scotty Barnes, who I've watched play a few times now, did not have a night that really jumps off the stat sheet when you look at his numbers. 8 points, 2 of 7 shooting, missed both of his 3-point attempts, 4 of 4 at the charity stripe, had 4 boards, 3 assists, 1 steal, had 5 blocks though. And the other thing, right, is I commented on what it looked like seeing Jalen Green in person, but 2 more, observations I have here is, one, on Scotty Barnes, the dude is long. Like, he comes from the Tayshaun Prince school of just long limbs, dude is able to reach everything. And as far as what he did in this game, again, the stats don't jump out off the page, but it felt like he was involved in everything. It felt like he was, coming over as a help defender at times. Felt like, again, he was blocking everything in sight. Anything that went up around him was getting swatted away. And he just has that level of impact defensively where you feel his presence on the game, even though he doesn't, again, jump out on the stat sheet. And that's not to say that he's not capable of doing that as well. We've seen some games where he has looked really impressive as far as the counting numbers are concerned. So, but it's cool for Scotty Barnes to be able to impact the game, be it, whether he's scoring the basketball, playing elite defense, all that stuff. He's going to be a tremendous player in the NBA. Absolutely. My other observation in person was that Alperen Sengun is definitely bigger than 6'9". He's listed at 6'9". He's got to be at least 6'10" or 6'11". He looks so much bigger in person. And I've seen some people with some concerns about is he going to really be an NBA 5? Can he be an NBA 5? Is he more so of a 4? And I'm like, no. When you look at this Rockets roster and the bigs that they have on hand, Usman Garuba, even though he's got the ability to kind of guard 1 through 5, he's definitely more so the build of a traditional 4. Christian Wood, I think, has shown the ability to play the 5 in certain matchups, but he is more so a 4 with his build. And I think he's better served to have a bigger player playing next to him at the 5 spot, which is the whole reason that the Rockets brought in Daniel Tice. And then Alperen Sengun is absolutely a 5. He's, again, looks bigger than 6'9". He's listed at 240, 250 or something as far as his weight is concerned. And he moves really well for somebody who's going to be playing a lot of the 5 at the NBA level. So I don't have any concerns about what he's going to look like guarding opposing 5s at the NBA level. If you have concerns about what Sengun's going to guard or what Sengun's going to look like guarding 5s, just dial it back to Christian Wood and how he got put in the weight room at times by some of the other bigs, and then add 30 or 40 pounds to that with Sengun. And some of the defensive prowess that we've already seen out of him, the footwork, the ability, the verticality, the ability to keep his arms straight up and down when he's contesting shots. I don't really have any concerns about Sengun playing the 5. And I think that if you look at those four guys, Sengun and Tice are the clear-cut 5s, and then Wood and Garuba are the clear-cut 4s. Although really you can mix and match and play any two of those guys with each other at any point. It's basically plug and play for whoever you want to put at the 4 or 5 spots between those two guys. And then not to mention, you can also go a little bit smaller and a little bit more athletic and probably put KJ Martin and or Jae'Sean Tate at the 4 spot next to any of those guys at the 5 spot as well, right? So you could have like a lockdown small ball defensive lineup at some point if you really wanted to, and run Garuba at the 5 and then like Tate and Martin at the 3-4 spots. And they can get creative with it. They've got a lot of flexibility with the lineups, and it'll be really interesting to see how they play, how all of that plays out. But we've got 2 more Summer League games for the Rockets. It's going to be some big games for Alperen Sengun, for Josh Christopher, for KJ Martin, and for Usman Garuba, even though there's probably not going to be any Jalen Green for the rest of the way. Still going to be really exciting to see those guys play and hopefully pick up a few more wins for the Rockets across the way. But for today's episode of Locked On Rockets, that is going to do it. As always, really appreciate you checking out the show. If you haven't done it yet, please subscribe at our brand new YouTube channel. Subscribe wherever you listen to your podcast, be it Apple, Spotify, Google, the brand new Odyssey app. We would sincerely appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.